The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of ParaX, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
It's coming.
All these voices. All these voices.
They're mine. They're not yours. You had no right to them when you were alive, and you have no right to them when you're dead. That's what it sounded like. Good, you know who I am. And you know I'm not playing. You're going to let those women go. In Jesus' name, you're going to let those women go.
Is there a demon here watching us right now? I'm just watching us right now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good night.
All right, so this week is Old Boy's pick again. So let's see what Old Boy has to say. I'm excited to see this one. And we'll go from there. I will be back after Old Boy has his turn to respond to whatever it is that we are talking about tonight. So, Old Boy, go ahead, brother.
So this is going to be a different one, guys. I hope you guys enjoy it. It's going to be more of a crypto thing. I was thinking about it, and I decided to do this one. We've done shows about Nessie and sea monsters and stuff, so here's one you guys would like. Do you guys think that there are sea monsters, giant sharks, prehistoric dinosaurs, and mythological legendary creatures in lakes, rivers, and oceans? I'm not going to just talk about oceans this time. So this is where we'll start. We've done Nessie before. That's one of the most popular crypto of all time. That, Bigfoot, and I think Mothman, and the Chupacabra, and the Jersey Devil. I think those are the top 5 I read. And now the Dogman. That's another big one. First off, so I believe, yes, the ocean, with 92% of it we haven't even explored, 91 or something like that. There's probably giants in there. And I mean, I've seen stuff about it. They had a sonar from this part of the Pacific to the Atlantic, all the way of something that was huge. That's a whole nother story that gets into myths that I'll get into in a couple minutes. Do I believe that there's giant megalodon sharks? Yes, I do. They have videos of them. They talk about it in Cortez in Mexico. I think it's in the Gulf right there in I think they call it the Black Devil. It's a giant Megalodon, or bigger. They don't even know what kind of shark it is yet. They don't know if it is. It's Megalodon. Sorry, not Megalodon. Megalodon. And they think there's like people missing. Boats are getting turned over. Animals are getting, like, big giant great whites are getting bit. And and half of them are, they're coming up shore dead, and it's a giant shark there. And then there's videos of the megalodon everywhere. There's a bunch of them, and I believe that, because you got to think about, like, you put a fish in a pond, it's going to get bigger, not like you do in a tank, like with a regular tank at your house. The bigger it gets, the bigger the fish is going to get. And if you put it in an ocean, you don't know how big they're going to get, because the ocean is huge. There's parts of the ocean that goes 30, 40,000 feet or more. The trench is around that. You can fit Mount Everest in there. I read a thing about how deep it is there. And that should tell you something. There's got to be something down there. I mean, there's stuff that people have talked about, like the guy with the scuba gear. He was going down with 2 people, and the one guy stopped, and the other guy kept going down. And his suit, he never came back up. They finally got him. He was dead of fright, and he ran out of air down there. So what they think is, but you can't see. There was pitch dark where they were at, and you couldn't see anything. So it looked, they said he died from, not having air, and he had like this scared look on his face, and I think he had like a suit on, and like his tank was dented. So he saw something down there. It scared him. Just like, I think it was one of the submarines. These group of people went, and they were going down so far you couldn't even see. It was dark, but they could hear something breathing down there. And then when they came back up, this submarine was pretty big. It was big, and it had a giant dent in it. And I think this submarine was like 80 feet long or longer. And this thing made a big old huge dent. So whatever it was is bigger than that. So all I'm going to say is there's something down there, guys. There's something down there. You know, I believe that giant sharks do exist. I believe that there's probably serpents in there. I don't know what kind. There's probably other crazy stuff that's in there in the ocean. We don't know. There may be mermaids for all we know. I don't know that for sure. That could be a possibility. So, you know, I think there's a lot of things there. A plesiosaur that might be. There was another one. It kind of looks like it has like a weird face. Like I think it's on Jurassic Park. They have video of that, you know, recently. I don't know if I believe it or not. But the giant squids, they didn't exist, everybody said, and now they're finding them 60 feet, 70 feet long. They captured them. They got them on video. They've captured one. They exist. I think that one was like 40 or 50 feet long, but they exist, and people didn't think they did. The Silifan, I think I'm saying it right, was a fish that they said was extinct, and they found it. So you never know. It's a possibility. Maybe it's a mutated shark. Maybe it's a new shark. Maybe it's a new species of shark that has evolved. That's bigger than even Megalodon. That would be crazy. Because theirs are 60, 70 feet long or longer. Anything longer than that, that's crazy. That's long as a blue whale. And gray whales and stuff like that length. And they said that they have bite marks, so there's something biting them. Nessie's a whole different story. I believe that's possibility, or it's something else. There's more than one. But that Loch Ness Lake is huge. It even goes to the ocean certain parts. Like there's caverns and stuff. It's huge. I think even the bottom part, it's like 1,100 feet, or even deeper than that. Some parts, I think it's like 3,000 in one area, or even deeper. I don't know if I'm right on that one, but I know it goes like there's a part, it goes like really deep. But I believe Nessie's exist. Oingo Poingo, the one in Canada, I think I'm saying his name right. They think that exists. That giant, I think Lake Champlain or whatever it is, it's huge. So they believe there's something there. There's been hundreds and thousands of sightings. And it says it looks like the plesiosaur, but it's smaller. It's only like 30, 40 feet long. Even Canada's even made it, you can't even hunt it. It's an endangered species, so they believe it. So lake monsters are different, though. I mean, it matters how big the lake is. There's got to be some enormous much of water in there to be able to stay there. I know there's a story, I don't know which country it is. I think it's somewhere in Africa. I think it was in Kenya. There's this giant river they have, and there's supposed to be this, it's like a weird looking creature. It's like they're some kind of god there. And it's supposed to look like a giant fish with a horse's head and like a weird tail and kind of like a crocodile jaw or something. And everybody thought this was fake, but there was a video where when the thunder comes, I guess in this part of the country, that's when it comes. So we're doing video, and all of a sudden you see this giant splash. It was huge. It must have been 30, 40 feet, this thing. So there's something there. I've seen it on Monster Quest a long time ago. Now, lake monsters, it matters what kind of creature there are and how big the lake is. It isn't going to just be like a little lake. I mean, it's not impossible, but I highly doubt it. Swamp monster, giant alligators and stuff, that they exist. Especially in the rainforest, like 30 feet long. Crocodiles, and I don't know if I'm saying which one. I think it's crocodiles. Alligators are the ones that don't get that big. Crocodiles, I think. And they're huge. They're huge. Giant pythons, giant that they're saying that there's some pythons that might be 40, 50 feet long. They've caught one that was 30, 27 or something like that. Somewhere around there. I think that was the record, 29 or 27 or something like that. But they're saying there's one's about 50, 60 feet. And there was supposed to be a species of snake that existed at one time it was huge. I think it was 80 feet long or something, like 60, 70 feet. It got huge. I think that's where they got the movie Anaconda from. The anacondas there. They get huge. Back to what I was saying. So it's only when the thunder hits this thing comes out, and they had like video of it, and it was huge. Do I also believe like there's other species we don't know? Yes, of course. There's probably stuff we don't even know what they are. I mean, I know there's, a lot of people think there's giant serpents. They're like 100 feet long, and sea serpents and stuff like that, and giant lizards that can swim. We'll see. I mean, I know there's some lizards that can swim, like, alligators and crocodiles, but, and, I think what else? I think, iguanas can swim too. I know that too. Yeah. Because I've seen them, on TV, of course. And my friend had an iguana tank, and I think he had a little pool, and he used to swim in them, so I think they can swim. So that's true. Do I believe there is a mythological creature lived in Kenya? It may, what I think it is probably something there, and they think it's just some kind of god or some kind of spirit or demon or whatever, and it's some kind of either giant, maybe snake or fish, or maybe something we don't know, we've never seen. That can happen. We can find new creatures. It happens all the time. They find new species of animals all the time, guys. Like, it happens a lot. Just because we found everything so far doesn't mean we haven't found everything. The rainforest hasn't been charted altogether. Every part of it hasn't been. There's parts of Antarctica. That's a whole nother world, because there's supposed to be stuff there too, especially deep in the under the ice. And that's a whole nother. Again, I want to do a show about Antarctica, and I know it's going to be a couple of them, but I would love to do a show, and I know you guys want to hear it, because there's a lot of stuff going on in Antarctica. We all know that. A lot of stuff they hide. Giant swimming aliens, 20, 18 feet long, all kinds of stuff there. So that's another story and another show, and I know you guys can't wait for that one, because I can't either, because I've been wanting to do Antarctica for a while. But we will. And this is, like I said, our show always sets up other shows down the line. We'll be doing another show about this one day. I've always been fascinated with sea monsters. Godzilla is one of my favorite monsters. And the bigger they are, the more I love it. Godzilla is huge. I love him, but I wish he was bigger, I've had dreams where I've been in the water and giant monsters were there. And they were huge, ugly looking monsters. And they were huge. Just something about it. I love monsters. I love giant monsters. I've always liked things that are like super big. The bigger they are, the bigger they have to be. Just how I've always liked it. It's just how I am, and my mind works. I'm sorry, as something as big as a house or a bus is swimming in the ocean, there's probably, think twice of being in it. That's my opinion. I'm not a big fan of water. Never have been. So, yes, I do believe there's creatures that are in the ocean, in lakes, giant lakes, rivers that we have never seen. And we will eventually, because the way technology gets and all the camera work we're doing and more people going and exploring. Just like China, they're supposedly, I don't know if it's true, I see a lot on TikTok, but you got to watch what you see anymore on any kind of social media. That's saying that China found an underground hole with species that were supposed to be extinct and new animals and supposed to be dinosaurs, and some of them are 18 feet long. I don't believe it. Just like I saw they're trying to bring making dragons or something, and people and zombies are running around, and I'm just saying, if people don't know, you could put anything on there and people are going to believe it, because like I said, people believe anything they see most of the time. they think it's real. And 90% of the time, well, I won't even say that, 70% of the time it's real. Sometimes it's not, guys. It's been set up. People trying to be famous, people making up stuff. They're just, they have somebody running around in a suit, or they just see something it looks like it could be. You know, a lot of sea urchins, and there's a giant fish, or fish. They get really long. They're like 18 to 20 feet long, and they look like sea serpents, so that's what a lot of people think, and that's true. They do get long, like 20 feet or longer sometimes. And I have seen that. I've seen it. People catching them in the ocean. They're huge, but you can tell. Like, I saw this video. I think it was in the Amazon, and it was like you could see this fin, but it was huge. I've never seen an oarfish that big. It must have been a 30, 40 feet in length, and it had a giant tail swinging up in the air, and it was huge. It had 2 humps. It had to be something, and it wasn't an oarfish, and it wasn't a catfish, because I know catfish can get big too, 15, 16 feet long. They're huge. Some can, guys. They get big. They get, especially in China and the Amazon River, they get huge. Fish get big. So you got to remember that. I believe that too. Some of these sightings are just giant fish or crocodile or something we can explain. Or a penguin or a orca whale. Some people might get that mistaken. And there's also new species of like sharks, and the megamouth shark. They found that, and it's supposed to be as big as a great white, but it has a big giant mouth. So now they know what that is, but that was just recently. So you never know what's in there. You never know what's in that ocean, the lake, the water. So always be careful when you go swimming. You never know what's under there, because some of these oceans you can't see, especially at night. That's why I think I love the ocean. I love the smell of it, and I like the feeling of it. I like walking on the beach, and the ocean's cool, but I'm always got that thought. It's something because it can happen. I mean, you got to be safe. And not only that, you can get attacked by sharks. I mean, that happens all the time in California. Great whites, hammerheads, all those. They can get you. Bull sharks especially. They like to bite people. You also have to watch out for jellyfish, stingrays to sting you and stuff like that. There's stuff that you got to watch out anyway. Just the normal stuff you know about. Even killer whales, you got to be careful. Like in Alaska and stuff like that, because you never know, man. They might not even kill you. They're vicious how they kill things. Like, I mean, I don't know. Have you seen they throw seals up in the air and then play with it and then break its neck just to kill it? And they know it. That's what's crazy. They like to do stuff like this. They're known to do that, great whites. Hey, they're the kings of the ocean. And killer whales, not great whites, killer whales are known to play and torture animals in the ocean. They showed it. Like, it was chasing this poor sea lion and was throwing him around, just like the seal. He's throwing a seal around, and they knew what they were doing for like 20, 30 minutes, and they just broke its neck and left it. Didn't even eat it. That's why you'll see seals jumping on the boats, running from great whites. Not great whites, killer whales. And then the killer whales start coming up the boats, because they're huge, man. Like, you gotta be careful what you mess with. So you never know what's in the ocean, guys. You never know what's down there. You never know what's in these giant lakes or rivers, especially the Amazon River. That thing's huge. So, I mean, it even goes into the ocean. So you don't know what's in there. We don't know what is going on half the time. We just assume everything. Just like space. We only explored 1% of that. We don't know what's in there. How do you know the ocean isn't us? That we're a giant pebble in a giant ocean. Like, and what that means is, like, the Earth is a giant ocean. I mean, not a giant. The Earth is a giant pebble in a giant ocean. That's talking about space. And there's giant monsters there. They're bigger than Earth itself. You never know, guys. You don't know what's out there. Stop believing everything you got told. You're taught to believe certain things. Learn for yourself. And stop using fear on anything you believe, on any side. Anything what you do, stop using fear to get people to believe in what you believe. Other than that, we'll leave it at that. But I'm glad you guys liked this show. It was something different. I want to do some crypto. We haven't done cryptozoology for a long time. I love talking about monsters, Bigfoot, Mothman, Nessie, sea monsters, and even giants. You never know what's out there. Dogman, werewolves, vampires, ghosts, goblins, whatever the hell is out there. We'll find it. It's what's staring into the abyss, because something's always staring back. Remember that, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Please write what you guys' opinions are. Tell us what you think's in the ocean. Tell us what giant monsters you think are there in rivers, lakes, giant snakes, giant crocodiles, whatever you think is there. Giant iguanas, giant lizards. Do you think they got huge and they swim? Komodo dragons, you know, or is there stuff bigger than that? Because those are huge. Giant alligators and crocodiles. They get huge. Snakes get huge. So you never know. Something could get bigger. It could be a new species of snake or a new species of sea serpents, or something that we think is a sea serpent. It's just looks like it. Or there could be a giant monster, the Cthulhu, and it's bigger than the whole earth itself, and it hides down there in the ocean. It's going to come out one day. Lovecraft's books. Or it's the Leviathan from the Bible, that when it stands up, it goes over the sky. You never know, man. It could be a giant Godzilla, for all you know. That would be crazy if Godzilla was real, or something like it was real. What would you guys do? I mean, you got to remember, dinosaurs did exist. They were on the earth. They did roam. These giants did exist at one time. What if they came back? What if they were already here and we just didn't know it? We couldn't find them because they were just somewhere else. They found a way from millions of years to stay away from us. Well, we'll find out one day, won't we? And that's what's going to happen. We're going to find out something's going to get caught. Something's going to giant. And we're going to know what to do when it hits us. So that being said, guys, I love you guys. I'm going to throw it over to James and hear what his opinions are. But please let us know. I love to hear your comments. Let us know about the shows you want us to do. Tell us how we're doing on our shows, man. We're on Spotify, man. We're getting bigger and bigger every day. So that being said, I love you guys. I hope you guys have a good weekend, a good night. And I'm going to throw it back over to James. There you go, brother. I hope you can give us a good feedback of what I said. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Okay, so before I get started, a couple of corrections, or really one correction and one clarification would be more like it. The correction, the story old boy told about the submarine down underwater where they could hear something breathing down there. I don't think that's true. Because what could possibly be down that deep that would be breathing? All the fish, sharks, those kind of things, they all breathe with gills. So you're not really going to hear, there's no lung going in and out. So you're not going to hear a breathing sound. Anything that breathes air is not going to be breathing down there either. They're going to be going up to the surface for air and then coming back down. There are things that breathe air in the ocean, but I don't think that you're going to hear anything breathing down there. Because, like I said, anything that breathes air is going to be the surface taking a breath. Anything that's down below breathing is going to be breathing with gills. So that's the correction part. I don't think that anybody heard anything breathing. I'm sure that somebody said that, but I don't think that could possibly be true. Unless there's some sort of brand new biology that I've never heard of that has a lung that breathes air underwater. Somehow you can breathe water into your lungs and then get oxygen out of them. So that's the correction part. The clarification, when old boy was talking about the rainforest, the elusive creature that he was thinking of is the caiman. Now, he was correct, because a caiman is in the alligator family. It is not a crocodile. It is in the alligator family. A lot of people mistake caiman for crocodiles because they are a lot smaller, usually, than alligators are. And they also have a thinner, more narrow snout, which is a lot like a crocodile would have. An alligator has a wider head. But caiman do get fairly large. There are 12, 15 footers in the Amazon that are caiman. But that is what he's looking for, is caiman. And it is actually in the alligator family. So he is partially correct on that. Now, let's get to the show. I don't really know what to call this one. This one's really broad. I guess what we will say is aquatic cryptids or aquatic creatures. Does that seem fair? So do aquatic cryptids exist? Do aquatic creatures of mythical proportions exist? I would say probably the answer to that right off the bat is absolutely yes. It's been proven already. Old boy mentioned the coelacanth. That is a prehistoric fish that was found off the coast of Madagascar. That was thought to be extinct millions of years ago, but they found one. Another great example that comes to mind is the giant squid. The giant squid was supposedly just something out of myth and legend until they actually caught one on camera. And they have since videotaped it multiple times and studied it. So we do know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the giant squid absolutely exists. And the giant squid is like the kraken of old mythologies and lore. It's that giant octopus-looking thing that would attack ships. Now, I don't know if giant squid ever really attacked ships. Maybe there were some holdovers from prehistoric times that were even larger that maybe did attack ships back in the early days. And for whatever reason, whether the ships are bigger and stronger now, make a lot more noise, so they don't mess with them, or whether those things simply went extinct, I don't know. The theory of the ships being larger and making more noise makes a lot of sense to me, because you have not only the engines on the ships, but you also have sonar on a lot of ships as well. And what sonar is it's shooting a sound wave down into the water, and it's bouncing off things and coming back. And then you're able to kind of read what's underneath the water and get a picture that way of what's down there. So when you have a larger vessel that has an engine that is putting off that vibration and that noise of the engine down into the water, and they're also pinging sonar, then it's a pretty good bet that most things are going to stay the hell away from them, because they're just making a damn racket. And I'm sure that it's not very comfortable for the animals to have to hear that and feel that. So let's move on to lakes. He mentioned Nessie, of course, Champ from Lake Champlain, a bunch of those kind of lake monsters. They're all kind of the same deal, same thing. Some people think it's a plesiosaur, other people think it's other things. I think that they absolutely do exist. And I think the reason why it's kind of hit and miss to find them is because, like, especially at Loch Ness connects to the ocean through a bunch of rivers and underwater cave systems and stuff like that are all flooded. So something could move from the ocean to Loch Ness and back. So what we might be dealing with Loch Ness is simply a breeding ground where once a year or twice a year or however often they do, they make the trip into the loch. And that's where they either lay their eggs or have their babies or whatever, depending on what kind of creature it is. And then they make their way back out to the ocean. I think that because there have been sightings of Nessie out in the ocean. So, or at least a creature that is identical to Nessie in its description. So that would make me say that most likely Nessie is utilizing that river and underground cave system to make its way from the ocean to the loch. And the most likely reason for that would be just like salmon do. They swim all those miles upstream in order to lay their eggs in the same pond that they were hatched out of. And then they go. So it's kind of the same deal, you know. A lot of animals do that, where they have a certain area, like turtles do. They have a certain island that they go to where they were born, and they go hundreds and hundreds of miles away and live their life. And when it's time to lay their eggs, they come all the way back, and they lay their eggs there. So it's not unheard of in the animal kingdom for something like that to happen. So I think most likely that's what we're dealing with Loch Ness, is it's simply a breeding ground or an egg hatching area or whatever you want to say, depending on what it is we're dealing with. I think there's a good possibility it's a plesiosaur. It could be any number of either an unknown animal or any number of prehistoric animals that have managed to survive. And that's a key point that I want to make in this episode. A lot of people don't believe in Nessie. A lot of people don't believe in Bigfoot. A lot of people don't believe in a lot of these mythical creatures. Like Mekele Membe is another great example down in the Congo. Mekele Membe is basically a brontosaurus. It's just a lot smaller. It's only like 6 to 8 feet instead of like 30 or 40 feet or whatever the hell a brontosaurus was. I don't know the exact measurement of a brontosaurus, but it was very, very big. But it's possible that it could be a species of dinosaur in that family, maybe from a little bit later on, after it already shrunk some, that has survived up to this point. Now, keep in mind, when you're talking about a prehistoric animal that has survived to modern day, there has to be a breeding population. And what that means is there has to be enough animals to be able to have enough genetic diversity to where they're not going to inbreed themselves into extinction. Because a lot of times when there's a lot of inbreeding going on, you have a lot of malformed offspring. You have a lot of mutations that happen. You have a lot of retardation that happens in humans and in animals. And you even have things becoming sterile to where they're not fertile anymore and they can't reproduce through inbreeding. So you have to have a breeding population that has enough of the number of the animals in it to have the genetic diversity to keep that from happening. So we're not talking about hundreds and hundreds of thousands here. We're talking anywhere from, 500,000, 2,000, something like that, depending on the animal, and depending on how often they breed and how big their litters are and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but we're not talking about a giant number of these things, but we are talking about a decent number. So it can't just be one. There can't just be a Bigfoot or a Loch Ness Monster. Okay, it's got to be enough of them to have that genetic diversity to keep the species going. Because let's face it, guys, what all these things are, they're just animals. And that's what a lot of people, I think, don't understand. A lot of people look at you like you're crazy when you say that you believe that Nessie exists or that Champ exists or that Bigfoot exists. They say, man, that's nuts. That's cuckoo. Why? Why is it so cuckoo? If all we're talking about is a plesiosaur that has survived to modern day, that's just a prehistoric animal. It's a dinosaur. Why is that a crazy idea? What other prehistoric animals have survived to modern day? We mentioned the coelacanth, right? Alligators, crocodiles, a lot of species of shark. They were all here when dinosaurs were here. Okay, you've got insects that were here during that time period. You've got amphibians that were here during that time period. So it's not unheard of, and it's not a crazy idea to say, hey, maybe this is just another animal species that has survived and hasn't gone extinct. And they're just in a small enough number, and they stay the hell away from us because they're smart. Anything that's smart stays away from us. The only animal that doesn't stay away from us that is actually smart, there's actually two. There's one on land and one in the water. On land, you have all kinds of different primates, monkeys. They don't stay away from us. They like to mess with us and throw stuff at us and act like little asses. They're very smart, but they're also very, very strong. And they look enough like us that we don't blow their heads off when they mess with us. Because, it feels like murder almost. Because, they got hands and thumbs and fingers. And they look like we look almost. The other one is dolphins. Dolphins are very, very smart. And they like to play around with us. They're very playful. But most animals, if they have any kind of intelligence, stay the hell away from us. Because we are the apex predator of Earth. We are the baddest thing on the planet. Point blank. Now you might say that's crazy because look at lions and cheetahs and tigers and jaguars and all these things. Sharks. I mean, they're all badasses. Yeah, they are, but we got the brains. We got the ability for strategic planning. We have the ability to make tools. Okay? Now you might say, well, some animals do too. I'll tell you some crazy stuff. Everybody knows that monkeys are able to use tools, right? Okay. Do you know that some birds can also use tools? There was a study done where they would put a treat in a tube. And I believe it was a raven, but it might have been a crow, but it's one of those two. Would have to get the treat out of the tube. And it figured out that if it picked up this stick with its beak, it could push through the tube and knock the treat out the other side. So that's an example of an animal using a tool. Pretty cool. Now, another one that not a lot of people know, rats. Everybody look at rats and they think, ugh, vermin, ugh, disgusting. And I'm with you, man. I hate mice, I hate rats, they suck. But there is video footage of rats coming up onto a rat trap. And there's cheese in that trap, and they want it. But they have learned, they understand that if they go and get that cheese, that trap's going to go off and kill them. And they don't want that, but they want the cheese. So they've actually learned how to pick things up with their mouth. In the video that I watched, it was a stick, but I mean, I'm sure they use other things as well. And they'll actually hit the trap with it and set the trap off. Then once the trap goes off, they drop the stick and they go over and they just pick the cheese up and they eat it. So they have learned that traps will kill them. That's pretty smart. And they've learned how to use tools to help themselves. That's awesome. Now, there's also animals on Earth that use strategic planning and have before. Look at raptors are a great example, the velociraptor. They would hunt in packs and they would form a plan and lure or chase their prey into an ambush spot where they could have the numbers advantage and take them down. Wolves do the same thing. Wolves hunt in packs and they will chase down an animal. They don't have as much strategic planning, but I'm sure that there's some that goes into that. There's definitely coordination that goes into it to hunt in a pack. So you might say, well, then what makes humans so special? Because some animals can use tools and some animals use strategy. So what about our minds is so great and so amazing? Well, we have something that animals don't have. Time. And by time, I don't mean we have time to come up with plans. We have time to make things. I mean, we understand the concept of time. We know what tomorrow is. We spend most of our time on Earth, not in the present, but either in the past or in the future. We are either thinking about things we did before, or we are thinking forward and planning for the future. Now that is a whole nother level of thought that no animal on Earth that we know of has any idea of. They don't understand tomorrow. That's why if you've ever had pets, if you leave and you come back, they're crazy happy to see you because they didn't know you were ever coming back. They don't have any concept of time. They don't have any concept of tomorrow. So every time you leave, to them, it might be the last time you've ever gone. Now, I will grant you, not so much with cats. And I don't think it's because cats have a concept of time, because if you go away for a while and you leave a big old bowl of food down for your cat, the cat's not going to ration that food until you come back. It doesn't understand time. It doesn't understand that it's going to take you a while to get back, possibly. So there's a reason why there's more food than there usually is. So maybe it ought to just eat its normal amount and space it out. It doesn't understand that. It's going to go and gobble it all down as fast as it can and then throw it up because cats are stupid. Cats are just very, very good hunters. They're just killing machines. But also they're kind of pricks. Let's face it. Let's be honest, guys. Cats are not very nice. So a cat's not going to be very, very happy to see you, but that doesn't mean that it understands tomorrow. Human beings are the only creature on Earth that has a concept of tomorrow. So that makes us the top of the food chain. That's what makes us the apex predator, because not only can we do strategic planning, but we can plan far into the future. We can build traps that are going to catch something in a day or two, where most other animals, they're capable of coordinating an attack, but they're not capable of laying a trap for you. That it's a passive hunting device that can get you when they're not around. So, back to the topic of the show. I believe that all of these cryptids, the ones within reason at least, are just animals. Most of them are prehistoric that have survived and we didn't understand. You know, I mentioned the lake monsters like Nessie and Champ. Most likely a plesiosaur, possibly other things, but most likely if it is a prehistoric animal, that's a good bet for what it could be. Now, some people will say that they don't think that it could be a plesiosaur because plesiosaurs breathe air and it would come up way too often and people would spot it. But think about it. Every time you spotted it, it's because it surfaced. And if it spends most of its time in the ocean and is only in the lake or the loch or whatever it is for a small amount of time in order to breed and raise its young, then you're not going to see it very often. You're only going to see it when it surfaces to breathe. And out in the ocean, it could surface as much as it wants, and nobody's out there. So you're not going to see it unless it's right off the coast. They can also hold their breath for a very, very long time. A lot of animals that breathe air that are aquatic animals can go an hour, 2, 3, some like 6 hours in between breaths, which is insane. So to me, that doesn't disqualify it. Look at Bigfoot. Even though Bigfoot is not an aquatic creature, I think that Bigfoot is an early hominid named Gigantopithecus. I think that's what it is. It matches the description perfectly. And I think that there's a very good chance that at some point when we find one and actually capture it or find a body and we can study it, that's exactly what we're going to find, is that it is Gigantopithecus. And I think that they're so hard to find because they're very, very intelligent. You know, they're not dumb. They're us. Not really us. They're kind of an offshoot, a hominoid species, but not Homo sapiens. But they're enough like us to have intelligence to be able to realize that we are a threat and that they do not want us to know that they're around. So they're going to be very stealthy. They're going to stick to areas where we're not. And when you see them, it's only going to be for a very short, brief moment as they're crossing a road or hightailing it out of your way. You don't really have instances of Sasquatches coming up and hanging out, you know, playing cards with you or coming up and taking food out of your hand. That just doesn't happen. They want to stay away from us. So I think that's what we're dealing with all different types of cryptids. We're just simply dealing with animals that have survived or animals that we don't even know exist. I'll give you another great example, the silverback gorilla out of the Congo. That is one that everybody agrees is an actual animal. It exists. It is alive. We know it is. At one point in time, if you would have made that exact statement, people would have called you crazy, because the silverback gorilla was only known through the lore of the local tribes. And science as a whole thought it was ridiculous. They thought it was nonsense. There's no way that a large primate species could exist that close to humans, and we didn't discover it yet. That was the general thinking on it until we found it. And now everybody knows it's alive. So what I would say is don't be so quick to dismiss a lot of these creatures. People are like that today with the megalodon shark. The megalodon shark, man, is badass. That thing is like the size of a school bus. And the general thinking on that is there's no way it could still be around because it is too big. And we would see it. But something that large is going to live deeper. Okay, so if it's living deeper, whether it's in the trench or not, like the Mariana Trench, whether it's down that far or whether it's just down far enough that we don't go down there and look for it, it could very well exist. And if you look at the primary diet of the megalodon shark, it fed on whales and large sharks. That's what it ate. So if it's eating whales and it's eating large sharks like the great white, it doesn't have to surface. There's no reason. The reason you see sharks surface is because they're going after seals. That's why they surface. That's why you see all those awesome videos of great whites shooting up through the water and taking a seal and flying up in the air with it and all that. Because that's what they're hunting, is seal. And seal are breathing air, so they're staying near the surface. They're not going hundreds of feet deep. The megalodon doesn't have to surface. It's not feeding on seals. A seal would be like a raisin to you. Like, you wouldn't go like 100, 200 yards just to pick up one raisin and eat it. That's stupid. It's not worth it. You're burning more calories than you're gaining. Same thing for the megalodon. It doesn't have to do that. It's going to be down deep where it can feed on whales and sharks. Now, whales do breathe air and they have to surface, but they don't surface very often. And they do go pretty deep. So I think that it very well could exist. There have been whales and sharks, both, that have washed up on beaches with giant bites taken out of them. What the hell's taking bites out of giant sharks and whales? The bite radius on that thing is larger than the biggest great white shark we've ever seen. So how is that possible if it's not a large species of shark? Whether it's the megalodon or whether it's something else. But it is something that big that is doing that. So I would say don't be so quick to dismiss any of it. Because a lot of people look at it and they say, it's nonsense. Because they think supernatural, right? They think Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, supernatural. There's some kind of monster. There's some kind of supernatural creature. And that's hogwash. It doesn't exist. That's what they think. So they dismiss it. But the reality of the situation is they're just animals. And there's animals all around us all the time. So there's no reason to say that these particular animals don't exist. We just haven't found them yet. And in all reality, we have found them. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of sightings of these things. There are thousands of photographs out there of a lot of these different things. Now, you could argue this one or argue that one. It doesn't matter. The odds of all of them being fake are astronomical. There are people that are respected people that aren't liars, that aren't con men, doctors, lawyers, sheriffs, that have reported accounts. So either all of these highly respected people are willing to lie and just ruin their own reputations and make themselves look stupid to pretend like they saw something that nobody's going to believe they saw, or they actually saw it. So in my opinion, yes, absolutely some of these things exist. And absolutely, there's nothing mystical about it. It's not supernatural monsters, guys. It's just animals. They've been here since the beginning, and they'll be here till the end. Do you know that every year they find hundreds of species of animal that they didn't even know existed? Now, granted, the majority of them are insects, and the majority of those are found in the Amazon. But every year, there are new animals that are added that we had no idea existed. Every so often, one of these big ones, like the silverback gorilla, we find. And we say, whoa, wait a minute. This wasn't just a myth or a legend. This was actually real. So don't doubt. Don't say there's no possible way that this could exist. Because it could. And it probably does. You don't know. And I'll tell you one thing about science. One of the big things about science, and it shouldn't be this way, but it is they're looking for the approval of their peers. You don't want to do something that's going to make people think you're a quack. Because then nobody wants to work with you. You don't get any grants. It's all about money. If you can't get funding, you can't do research. If you can't get funding, you can't do science. Not on any kind of scale that matters. If everybody looks at you as a quack, you're not getting a job. So a lot of scientists are very scared to go out on a limb because they don't want to lose their funding. You're not going to have people like Tesla and Einstein anymore. that aren't worried about losing funding. They're not going to be willing to go with some completely off the wall theory that most people say that's nuts. But think about it. We went to the moon, man. People thought that was crazy before it happened. There's no way that we'd ever go to the moon. And we did it. Before the first flight of the Wright brothers, people thought that was nuts till they did it. Good science is always pushing that line of the unbelievable. So that's what I think. They absolutely exist. I'm going to throw it back over to Old Boy and get his final sum-ups and shout-outs and everything, and then I will be back to wrap this up. So, Old Boy, go ahead, brother.
I hope everybody enjoyed the show. It was an interesting one. I hope you guys liked it on Parax Radio. And now Spotify. We're on Spotify, guys. YouTube. I think we're on a bunch of other independent, like Parax Radio and stuff like that now. I know we're going to try to get on Apple soon and iHeart. That's next. But we are on Spotify now, guys. Check us out on Spotify. If you guys have Spotify, a lot of people do. You can listen to us now. We are now on Spotify, Staring in the Abyss. Thank you guys on Parax Radio every Sunday nights, 12 a.m. Eastern, 9 Pacific. And the Best Of show on Tuesday nights, 8 Eastern p.m., 5 Pacific. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. You guys want merchandise? He'll tell you where to get our shirts, all kinds of cool stuff. You have any suggestions of our shows? Let us know. Subscribe to James Hershey's YouTube page and let us know what's going on and what you guys want to listen to and what you guys would like us to talk about. It's almost summertime, guys. May's almost half over, and I'm enjoying it. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. We love you guys. Misfits, Shirleys, Monster Lovers, Demon Hunters, I love you, and blessed be, and have a good night.
Thank you, brother. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope that I changed your thinking a little bit on aquatic cryptids and just cryptids in general. Now, there's a lot of them that are kind of nuts. You know, some of them that people claim to see and that there's legends of that are like chimeras, basically, of a bunch of different types of animals mixed together and stuff, probably don't exist. But you never know. You never know. I mean, every legend and every bit of lore has a little nugget of truth in it. And it's all about finding that nugget and figuring out what it is. So that being said, guys, I appreciate you. I love you. Time for shameless plugs. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. That's where everything is. If you're listening on the radio or you're listening on Spotify, please go and subscribe to the channel and check it out, man. There's like over 1,000 videos there. Every episode of Staring is there. Every episode of Tales, which is the TV show we do about the investigations that we go on, is there. We also do a show called Paranormal News, where we talk about things in the news that have to do with the paranormal. Tons of cool stuff, 100% free. Please go enjoy it. Like I mentioned just a second ago, we are now also on Spotify, Staring into the Abyss on Spotify. Please go check it out. The profile picture is the staring eye, the logo that is right here behind me right now. If you're listening on the radio, you know what the staring eye looks like, I'm sure. That's the episodes. They're all up there. Not every single episode of Staring, but a lot of them are up there, and every week they go up, and I'm adding the older episodes in as Staring Classic episodes. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you very much for hanging out with us again and all your support. We love you. We appreciate you. And we'll catch you on the next one. Till we speak to you again. Love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.